All right, so we supposedly have all these rights set forth in our Constitution and even talked about in our Declaration of Independence. In the Declaration of Independence, it calls them inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Uh, Inalienable means that it can't be taken away from you. You can't give it away. It is uh, it is integral and intrinsic to who you are. And I have a problem with that because your life can be taken away from you legally. You know, all societies will say that there are those people who have forfeit their lives, even if they don't have the death penalty. If they were attacking a room full of school children and a police officer, killed them to save the school children, society would sanction that death, and rightly so. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. What I'm saying is that you don't have an inalienable right to your life. Your life can justifiably be taken away from you as well as anything else you have. There's they take away children away from parents all the time. Any property you have, even if your home is paid for, you still have taxes you have to pay. There's nothing you have that's inalienable to you. Everything about you can be taken away from you except for two things. There's two things you have that that no one can take away from you. Your ability to choose right and wrong, or to choose between good and evil, because that happens internally. That happens in your mind. No one can be a part of that. No one can take it away from you. No one can interfere in that. Uh, so that that the right to decide if something is right or decide if something is wrong is inalienable to you. Uh, the other one is the right of resistance. Uh, no matter what, you always have the right to resist, even if you're chained to a wall and they poke out your eyes and cut out your tongue and uh, you know cut off your ears. You can still always resist. The very fact that you're chained to that wall implies some sort of continued resistance. Your very existence is resistance at that point. So no matter what, you can always resist on some level. You can decide what's right and wrong, and you can resist. Uh, those are the only two inalienable rights you have. Now, I'm not saying that those rights are can't be made very expensive, especially the right of resistance can be made very expensive. Because every other man has the right of resistance too, and they have the right to decide if you're right, if you're wrong, and if they decide you're wrong, they can resist you. But these are the only two rights you have: the right of life, all this stuff, uh, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. These are all, I don't want to say bullshit, because I love the Declaration of Independence. I love the Constitution. I believe the Constitution is one of the greatest documents ever written. I believe the Declaration of Independence, although flawed, is our most important founding document. Uh, I just I I struggle with this idea that we deserve all of these things that we call rights, and that they're inherently ours. They're not. They can all be taken away legitimately or illegitimately. And societies are judged based on how they take away your rights. Think about it. It's a free and open society if they only take away your rights through set legal processes. It's a tyrannical society if they take away your rights, your supposed rights, any way they want. So these aren't rights. These things we call the freedom of the press, freedom of religion, although freedom of religion is hard to take away. The right to bear arms. All of these things are freedoms. They're not rights. They can be taken away. These are freedoms and liberties that are secured for us by the exercise of our only two rights: the right to decide and the right to resist. Uh, and if we don't actively uh, function in our two rights, then our liberties we're going to lose, because our liberties are granted. Either we claim our liberties through the free exercise of our rights to decide and to resist, or our liberties are granted to us by others. And if they grant them to us, they can take them away from us. Uh, and this isn't just selfishness. Oh, I want to live my life the way I want to live. Hitler and Stalin. We're raising your children, uh, and that's how those societies were able to have those horrific upheavals they had, because because they uprooted parents out of their children's lives and turned the children over to the state. And trust me, if you don't think the state wants control of your children, you're crazy. Because if they can get your children when they're young and indoctrinate them, then they can have absolute power for a generation, at least, or maybe more. As in the case of the Soviets, you saw they were able to hold on to power for uh, 3 or 4 generations. Hitler only made it last for one generation. So this ties into a bunch of other things. I call it the theory of revolution. I like catchy phrases. Uh, and to me, it is the ultimate justification for the American Revolution. It is the only justification for any revolution, whether in your personal life or in the broader public world, that you have decided something is right and you are willing to fight for it, or you've decided something is wrong and you decided to fight against it. You don't need any other justification than that. That's it. As a morally uh, uh, I don't know the right phrase I'm looking for here. Uh, as an individual with moral agency, you actually have an obligation to behave like that. Revolution isn't something that has to be justified. Uh, it is something you simply have to weigh the cost for. And like I said, that can be in your own private life, in your morality. It can be in your professional life. It can be in your family life. Sometimes, occasionally, it has to be in your civic life. But this idea that the cultural elites are pushing around out there, that the revolution was this one-time thing and it was a great virtue once, but now it's a grievous crime, is false. Uh, revolution on any level is simply the only two rights you have, certainly the only two inalienable rights you have. If you choose what's right and wrong, and then you choose to fight for the right and against the wrong, you are in revolution, uh, no matter what goes on. And that's a good thing. So thanks, guys.